entertainment just for me and you. Bronze Buckaroo, home on the range over the sky that's blue. Oh, the Bronze Buckaroo got talking horses. Or is it donkeys? Bronze Buckaroo.
Talking horses?
Cheers.
Ah, that's good tea. Oh, I forgot about. Thanks for reminding me of my tea. I forgot about it.
I did too. I forgot my tea. This is my own blend, my proprietary blend.
Proprietary. Let's say that fast 3 times.
Means I own it. You ready?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Greetings. I'm QueenB Divine.
And I'm Henry C. Blah, 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 blah.
And today we've got a good old Western for you, the Bronze Buckaroo.
Oh, but it's not your mama's Western.
It's a good Western. Did you know that there were all black Westerns? I mean, there are, there've been a few in today's generation, but so early in our time.
Right. This movie, the Bronze, not the Blonde Buckaroo, that was something else. The Bronze Buckaroo was made actually in 1939, the same year as The Wizard of Oz.
You know what? But before we get into that, how are you doing, Henry C?
Oh, QueenB. Oh, QueenB. I'm cold, but I'm comfortable. It's winter. It's winter in Spain.
That's for me, that's like an oxymoron, like winter in Spain. I get it. But right. You here in North America, because I'm in beautiful British Columbia, Vancouver Island. Come to the island. Well,
do you have snow?
Yeah, they have snow. Where you get on, you see it on top of Mount Benson, and we get snow. And sometimes the snow lasts for like the most 5 or 6 days. I've been here for a while, and it's probably as close as I'm gonna get to an island in Canada. With the Caribbean vibes. Probably as close as I'm gonna get.
Not all islands are created equal.
No, they're not. But the scenery here, god damn it, the trees, the wildlife, the water, some people, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful here too. The region of Spain that I'm in, it's called Extremadura. And some people interpret that as extreme, like extrema, and dura means hard. So this is actually the most economically depressed part of Spain. So it's not a real tourist destination,
right?
Compared to, say, Barcelona or Seville, or the Mediterranean, Granada, or along the coast, because there the weather is temperate. There is where you think of, sunny Spain, right? But where I am, we have mountains, and we get snow up on the mountains too. We haven't had any in a couple of years, but global warming, climate change, I don't know. But
climate change, I really think the weather. I think we sped up whatever happened, but I
don't know what's happening.
I don't, but this is just my theory. I think we've just sped up what happened, but I think this would have naturally happened to the Earth regardless if we were here. But we have sped it up tremendously.
It's not like we haven't had an effect, humans, since the Industrial Revolution.
We're like a disease, honestly, because we come on this planet. This planet's doing good. Mother Earth is chilling. She's enjoying her garden. She's like, animals are nice. Look at these animals playing. And then here comes these humans come messing it all up. And it's like scratching her. She's like, get the hell off of me. And she's causing herself a fever. She's getting the shakes. She's trying to cure us. Because I think we're just humans are
QueenB, what gets me is that humanity has the capacity to live in harmony with all of nature that we are part of, not separate from, and we don't have charge over nature. We don't have to lord over nature. We don't have to steward nature, because you know what? Nature doesn't need human beings. We need nature, right? We rely on nature, right? And we totally have the capacity to live harmoniously with the natural world, with plants and animals and everything else. Do we do it? No.
And
Why?
speaking about animals, I think horses are one of the most sensitive little creatures on this planet. Speaking of horses, that brings us to the Bronze Buckaroo.
Another random segue by QueenB.
Baby. Yeah, that was pretty good. Brad, give it to me. Come on, give me a high five. High five. Come on. Don't have
High five.
There you go.
And I'm going to pause it right there because my groceries are arriving. I'll be right back.
And we will take a pause for the cause. We'll be right back after these messages. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there is a bronze buckaroo on a horse not far away. Somewhere on the western landscape, there's a bronze buckaroo getting on a horse and entertaining us. Yes, me and you. Bronze Buckaroo, entertainment just for me and you. Bronze Buckaroo, home on the range over the sky that's blue. Oh, the Bronze Buckaroo got talking horses. Or is it donkeys? Bronze Buckaroo.
Talking horses.
Talking horses and black cowboys.
I left you a little
We're back.
I left you a little segment moment that you can mess with in editing.
Well, you know what? We can put this on the website under outtakes. People get to see how I have my groceries delivered in remote.
Important. Grocery, speaking of after this, I have to get some groceries myself. Blah blah blah. So, anyways, Bronze Buckaroo. Now, if y'all watching our show weekly, I kind of let a little piece of what I like and what makes me tick on the other side of this screen. And Westerns is one of my favorite genres of movies. So I was super excited not only to have this week's watch, because we watch these movies together whenever we can, mostly 99% of the time.
I think there's been just one time we haven't watched it together, but
99% we watched movie, and not only is it a fabulous Western, but it's an all-black cast Western, and it is just delicious. It's voluptuous with character, with humor, and with style. I love it.
You asked at the very beginning, did anybody know that there were black Westerns in the early days of cinema? And this came out the same year as The Wizard of Oz. This was the golden year of Hollywood, but this was not a typical Hollywood movie. It was filmed in California, and you can tell by the environment because they're totally out in the desert.
Right.
It's a musical, or it's a film with music. There's like intermittent musical moments, which are really good.
Oh, I was trying to remember what they were singing, and I can't remember the call and respond.
Yes. Anyway, well, you'll get it when you watch the film.
Yes.
But what struck me about this particular film, why I wanted to share it with you, is because I've been working on a project with my theater company, the Luminos Project, and we've been doing a series of folk and fairy tales from all over the world. I've been curating a list of stories that are dying with the people that carry them, right? And I've always been a huge fan, speaking of The Wizard of Oz, of L. Frank Baum, who wrote that story. But what a lot of people don't realize is that he wrote a whole lot of other things too. And one of them was a collection of fairy tales called American Fairy Tales. And whether you have kids or whether you just love fairy tales and folklore, I would get that collection. I highly recommend it. And there's one story in there called Catching Father Time, or The Capture of Father Time. And it's this whimsical story about this young cowboy who goes out and he's practicing lassoing, and he gets something. It's invisible. He can't see what it is. And turns out it's Father Time, and time stops everywhere. And so he goes and makes mischief in the village while, anyway, it has nothing to do with this movie other than I know just from my life, my friends, my understanding of history, that there were a lot of black cowboys, and they were never depicted on the screen in Hollywood in the era of the classic
Like Western.
John Wayne
Yeah.
westerns, right? John Ford and all these great westerns. There's a great one that I want to watch with you called Stagecoach that came out the same year.
Okay.
Those movies had polish, they had panache, they had great performances, great cinematography. This film was produced by a black company with like everybody involved was black.
Right.
This was not made for a white audience. This was not made for the Hollywood audience. This film would never have been shown in Texas.
Right.
Just saying.
Just saying.
Right? But I think it's important today because we are seeing more diversity in historical films that take place in, late 19th, early 20th century. It's good to go back and remember that there were people doing it almost 100 years ago.
Yeah, way before we think it's fascinating. I mean, I'm glad you said that. Thank you so much for saying that, Henry. See, is that one of my very first all black westerns was, I believe, was produced by Mario Van Peebles, and it was Posse.
Yes, great movie.
It was my first insight to that there were black people in the West, because history does tell us, yes, there are Aboriginals,
Right.
Native Americans, but it doesn't tell you about what I know or see as a black person in the Western society doing. And and as I'm learning, I could be corrected, please correct me, one of the very first cowboys was known to be a black man.
Yes.
So it's funny how, and I guess one of the lessons that we could learn from this is not neither black or white, which is, it's important, yes, but that history repeats itself. But when we repeat it, we can perfect it by making sure things are included. History is correct, that we bring forward these lessons, because how empowering is it for a young little black boy to know,
or girl,
black girl, to know that, oh my goodness, there were all black companies producing movies back then.
There were all black companies producing movies, stage theaters, right, dance companies. We saw that evidenced in the very first episode that we did with
Right.
Stormy Weather. That was a showcase of black talent that would not have otherwise been seen
Right.
outside of live theater, outside of the Cotton Club, outside of black theaters,
Right.
the Apollo and other, the dance companies and the vaudeville performers, right? And pre-vaudeville.
Right.
This is a black story. This is a black story. There is not one native character. It was not the Cowboys against the Indians kind of thing.
Yeah, and the shade of color was not just dark skinned. It was from all the way from the very, very, very light skinned, as as we call back the movie that we've covered couple of shows ago was called Passing. Just as light as that, but even as dark as that. And it was just, and it's beautiful to see, because I think one thing we said, it shows up so beautifully on the screen
in black and white. Why was there not more? Why was there not more interest paid and representation at that time for all people? Because, I mean, we know how beautiful dark skin is.
Oh, yes.
We know how beautiful melanin is. And when you see the spectrum of skin tone from very, very light, what's it called? High yellow or something, right? I mean, it's that so light they could pass, like you said, to dark chocolate brown. And you can tell that there are no white people in this film. You can tell there are no natives in this film. This is a black cast, black story. There's one woman, one in all the West.
Only one woman. She's holding it down for the entire West.
And she was good. What a great actress. Really, really fine.
you mentioned this because you definitely the genre of silent genre, you knew the transition. You can what I loved about this Western was the acting wasn't just, it was a lot of slapstick facial movement. Like you could read the script by just their faces and their body language. And it was just classic humor, just classic, I guess, again, simple. It was simple humor that, today would people be going, that's kind of corny, but
like dad joke.
Yeah, the dad joke. Dad joke. It was great, you know what I mean? And even what I noticed is one of the scenes, you've got to watch the movie to understand what we're saying too, is that there was a scene where someone goes into the bar, the saloon, excuse me, and they're looking for somebody without giving anything away, and they start shooting, and all the gun smoke starts clouding the room, and you forget about that detail that makes it real. And in that time, they knew that. Now you don't see that. You just see gunshots and nobody's doing anything.
Really, the artistry of filmmaking. They were on different locations. They were indoors. They were outdoors. Right. There was, sort of burlesque kind of comedy where there's like strip poker, right? Very funny, very stupid humor, silly, but in a good way. I love stupid humor. Dad jokes really, make me guffaw. And we were both laughing out loud. But this movie also has pathos. It has drama. It has romance, a little bit of romance, not much romance, but
romance. But
it's there. It's
there.
And because of all of these locations, the editing was actually quite brilliant as well. That's not an easy task for anyone to do. And when you have no budget, which they probably had no budget,
right?
Because it was a Black company,
right?
And because it was not a Hollywood film,
right?
No big studio behind it. And you got to think too, this is 1939,
right?
Which is it's only like 130 years since the end of slavery in the United States. And so to think of the journey, this is what I think of anyway. I think of the journey from being an enslaved people to producing art at this level is magnificent.
I agree with them. Like we say in most of our mental health podcasts, when we personally each, I have a podcast called The Curious Conversation. QueenB and Henry C has a wonderful podcast called the Lost Travelers Podcast. And we reiterate the truth that a lot of these things that come out now have always been inside us. So it could have, from my perspective, it could have been, it was brought over from the ships. And then it was stifled by the little minute part of Black history, tiny part of Black history. It was stifled for a second. And then as soon as freedom from that perspective happened, a return to their at least beginnings to do what they love do with artistry, was to create. Because even on that continent of Africa that they were coming from, or even Haiti, they were already creating art on that level. So it was just like almost a reawakening. And then again, when you look through history, a falling asleep, because there was so much racial turmoil happening that when you're in turmoil, you can't really do artistry. And now you can see it again reemerging, not only in people of color, but everybody reawakening their own true artistry. So when you look at it in that terms, where you say, oh my goodness, in 1939, or was it 39? Am I correct? Yeah, 1939. Look at the eloquency of their editing and their acting. It was just a reawakening, a freedom that they're like, hey, this has been in us, and this is what white people or colonialized America was stifling. This is what was
copying and appropriating. We cannot have this conversation without talking about appropriation.
That is pretty miraculous, because when you look at it and you look at all these the silent movie genres before,
Yeah.
Who's to say that this wasn't, it was to say that this was happening. The information was taken by those who were greedy and knew how powerful this type of art was, got it to the American forefront. And then when freedom came in that perspective, you know, Black people were like, man, what are you doing now? We were already doing that.
Yeah, truly. I mean, you look at the humor, you look at that vaudevillian style of humor, you look at the physicality and the facial expressions.
Right.
All of that came from Africa. It came from dance. It came from theater, folk theater, and these caricatures and characters that were easily recognizable archetypes.
Yes.
Right? That's where that all came from. And much the same, you know, in my experience with, you know, my Jewish background, the Yiddish theater gave birth to Broadway, gave birth to the Broadway musical, the musical comedies, you know, but I keep coming back to it. We're all one people. We're all one race. The humor, the movement, the art is universal. And we can recognize and appreciate it. And thank God, thank the gods, all of them, for our genius as human beings to have developed technology that can take us like a time machine back into time, that these things have been preserved, that they're available at the click of a button. Go down into the undercarriage and you'll find a link to see this movie, other movies, and hopefully, Buffs, this will open your mind to doing your own research. Go and find articles written about Black cowboys and the foundations of the frontier of the West. Read about the dynamics between those Black pioneers and the natives who were already living for thousands of years on that land.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? There's so much to uncover, and I find it all very fascinating. But I'm grateful, moreover, for human ingenuity, technology of our time, to be able to see and talk about what we're talking about and the impact that it still has today.
Exactly. Like, because like I said, the things are cynical. They just could keep going in circles and circles. And we're
I think you mean cyclical, not cynical.
Sorry, yeah, cynical. Same thing. Things are cynical.
People are pretty cynical. I would agree with that. That's our cup of the week.
Things are cynical, and I don't mean centrical. I mean cynical.
Centrifugal? I don't know.
But things are, when we come back in full circle and we say, what can we learn again? Because we're repeating the same thing, shit over shit over shit over.
It's cycles. It's cycles.
It keeps going. And I believe that in every cycle we can just weed out what didn't work. At least we hope we can do that. I hope we're doing that. We weed out when we go through that. And when it comes to people who are non-white, we got to remember that we are one people. And when we write our history, we got to make sure that's included, so we don't go through this this process again. Like, to me, nothing more frustrating than seeing the message that we need to love each other. I'm like, really? We're still here?
Right?
We're still here? Oh, come
but
on.
I think each of us has the ability and the responsibility to break the cycle of division.
Here. And so we
division,
have to
because
pay attention.
It's all in a loop. It's all in a loop. Pay attention. Where do you notice it?
Yes.
Where do you notice it in the entertainment that you're choosing to engage with? Still today, where do you notice it? Where is there a lack of representation, or where is there like a caricature of under the guise of representation, when it's actually really offensive if you peel away a couple of layers? It's all still there, but each of us have a responsibility, I think, to call it out when we see it.
Well, exactly, and to definitely call it out. Yes, we as each culture, each community has the right to express their history in the way they view as important and the best way to get the message out, we also have to remember there is a mainstream history. There is a history where imagination rules, and in that imagination, anybody could be anything. And we don't have to just stick to all white casts. We could throw in an Asian. We could throw in a African.
Or all black casts, for that matter. Or all Asian casts, for that matter. I mean,
exactly. Aside from all of that, when it comes to those shows, like, because I get it. When you want to tell your history, I don't want to be played by a white woman. I want to be played by a black woman. 100 years from now, I'm going to tell you this. I want a black woman to play my part.
That's right.
But when I'm telling my story, or I'm creating a story from imagination, we hope by the time, as time goes on, that we will be teaching our children that your imagination can include anything. Because I remember as a child, the teacher would say, draw a landscape, trees and birds in the sky. And I remember making my trees purple and my birds green. And she'd be like, that's not right. And she, little did she know, she was stifling that creative part of me. I know that trees are not purple. I know this. But
some are.
Well, you know what I mean. It's not widely known. And I'm sure at that age, I did not know trees were purple.
It's not the iconic tree that we've been taught is what a tree looks like.
Yeah, this is, and I think we should shy away from telling kids what they could learn from nature naturally. Because when a kid goes outside, they go, okay, the leaves are mostly green, the tree's trunk. But when I'm in creating a space for others to follow and become passionate about the art of creation, everybody, I really hope that we could include people, because there's nothing better than watching a movie that Hollywood completely created it without any history backing, just magic, and seeing a person of color in it. I'm like excited when I see an Asian person being represented, or a person of the LGBTQ. I can't remember the letters. God bless it. When I'm excited because it means that when we include others, we can learn about each other. And I can be that best person I need to be when I'm outside in the world, the real world, so to speak. I can meet you and go, I saw beautiful representation of the Black community in a movie, blase. I saw myself and I enjoy,
Bronze Buckaroo, exactly.
Bronze Buckaroo.
Yes. What do you think about, I mean, I agree with you. But there are some fine lines, because there are stories that are Asian that have no white people in them. There are Black stories that have, and there are white stories that have no, people of color in them. So there's room for all of it, I guess, is what. I have an issue too with LGBTQIA alphabet soup stories. It's like, oh, alphabet soup. I'm in the soup. I do take issue sometimes with the way that people in that community, in my community, are represented by actors who are not in that community. Right. One of the things I appreciated about the Bronze Buckaroo is that this is, like I said, it's a Black story, written, produced, costumed, musicians, everything. It was a Black story to be told. And it wasn't about white or Black. This could have been. It could have been an all Asian cast. It could have been an all Native cast. It could have been an all white cast. It could have been, but it wasn't. This was a Black story for Black audiences. And that is what I hold most precious about this film and others like it, because there are other Black Westerns produced mostly by the same people, by the same company. And look for them, because they're great.
Yeah, okay, there you go. It's been said.
It's been said. It's been said.
But as I said, it's inspiring when we can see ourselves on the screen. It's inspiring, like I said, doesn't matter what you look like. To see yourself on the screen is exciting. It's to see you reflected. It gives you that idea that the future wants you included. And when you don't see this in a mainstream level, you think the future does not want you included. And
I remember when you talked about how glamorous everybody was in stormy weather, that you had never seen that in this genre of film growing up, that you always saw the, you know, mammies with the banana.
Yeah, in today's movies, you know, you see, like, you know, crackheads, and I get the telling the story from the streets, but those are the only movies they seem to promote. And when you see an elegant movie with Lena Horne in it looking all delicious and stuff, and you see the gorgeous men, you see the main actors, men looking gorgeous, their hair looking good, and they're dressed to the nines, and there's
the main actor in this one, those tight pants he was wearing. I got the vapors. There was nothing left to the imagination in this costume.
And we think tight pants are something new. It's been here the whole time. Let me tell you something, young lady. Let me tell you something, young lady. Segue makeup. Okay. It's that, you know, when we go, oh my gosh, eyelashes. Eyelashes were back in the day. People used to wear the click, 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 all the fake wigs and hair. Back in the day, we ain't doing nothing special. So don't hate on women for putting on their little lashes and their little hair to make themselves feel good. It's been here all the time. The nails,
nothing new under the sun. Even back to ancient Egypt, you go and beyond.
Way back. So, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, do what you got to do to make yourself feel good. Life it doesn't have to be short, but it must be sweet. So, you know, dress up and treat yourself, you know, because when you look at these movies and you see Lena Horne walking to the bakery in a furry muff, and she's all dangled out, you're like, oh God, isn't that gorgeous?
Gorgeous, and she deserved to be represented that way.
Yes.
Because there were other women in the real world who were, like, what was her name? That woman who had the cosmetics company. They just did a wonderful film about it. I apologize. I'll put it in.
I don't know.
So Octavia Spencer.
Oh, okay.
Played her. She was the first Black millionaire woman in America in like the turn of the 20th century. What? Nobody ever heard of her before. We are starting to tell these stories, which is, I think, really important and really good. And let's talk more about the Bronze Buckaroo. What were your favorite moments that stuck with you?
The first one would be.
Spoiler alerts are okay on classic.
Okay, spoiler. The first one was the call and answer. I only wish I remembered the song because it was like, way down south, mama came out. Oh, on a Sunday. Oh, down a Sunday. Way down south, mama came out. Oh, on a Sunday.
I love it.
That up, but it was. I'm not sure where that came out from.
You're channeling somebody.
Somewhere in the ether, apparently someone wants me to tell them that mama came out down south on a Sunday.
You were channeling somebody, Miss Cleo. We were just talking about Miss Cleo the other day. It cracked me up.
Miss Cleo, let's just interject here. Let's segue. Hey,
random
segue. We're gonna make your day. Okay, Miss Cleo, we're gonna have a talk about talk shows of yesteryears and how they've impacted us. Just a whole segment. So if you know anybody who would resonate with such a comment, come on, ring the bell, smash the bell, as they always say. Become a subscriber, share these thoughts, watch the movies, join the conversation. Because I don't know anyone anywhere who's having a conversation, a discussion about classic screenshot movies, classic movies in general, that are relevant, and they're all relevant to our mental health because lessons learned from yesteryear should not be forgotten. Otherwise, there will be tears. Oh, I'm a poet, and I just
that was beautiful. Merch. Gonna be on TV. You know, I think we should do an episode about classic talk shows.
Yeah.
You know, and talk about people like Montel Williams and
Or Maury Povich.
Maury
Oh,
Povich.
all the
That was
fathers.
Jesse Raphael. Who was the other
Oh
one?
my God. Oh, there was one in Canada. Do you remember this one? It was Donahue. Not Donahue.
Donahue was a big one.
The amazing Kreskin. Do you remember that one? He went around.
I know the name. We're gonna have to do
around the room, and he was a mind whatever, and he would walk around the room and talk to people, and you know.
Oh yeah, he was a mind reader. Yeah.
Yes, amazing person. I remember that it was in reruns by the time I was watching it.
He had his own show.
Yeah, he had his own show. I remember it. I remember it clearly. I remember it. The Amazing Kreskin. We should look that up. I can look that up. Yeah.
Yes, I think I remember him being a guest on like the Tonight Show or other, you know, things. But anyway, you know, classic screenshots mostly is about classic cinema.
Why not?
Right, Bronze Buckaroo, but it's also whatever else we decide is classic, and those talk shows, those moments are classic.
We're gonna.
Many are available on YouTube.
We're gonna cover so many. We're gonna open the show up. I'm throwing it out here. Henry's like, "What? I don't remember discussing this, but why not?" We're gonna discuss so many things that are classic. We might even have a show about the classic fashions of the day and enjoy that. I think so. So go ahead and subscribe, because there's so much more to come, and your support is so valuable and so appreciated.
Yeah, and it matters. It makes a difference in
you matter. Yeah.
And how we are received and how we are distributed,
right, as
well. All those algorithms, which I think are baloney. It should all be just real on the surface, on the level.
They should. I don't know what. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I think my favorite character, I can't remember his name, but I'll find it. And the actor, he was the one with all the big facial expressions.
The ventriloquist.
Not the original, but the one who stole the ventriloquist book and learned how to make the donkey talk.
Yes.
Right. So here we had a talking horse, a talking, mule, or what was he? A mule?
Donkey. I think he said donkey.
Yeah, I mean, that's before Francis the Talking Mule. That was a movie that came out in the 40s, Francis the Talking fucking Mule. And then there was Mr. Ed, who was a talking horse in the 50s. Yeah. But I think, as far as I know, the Bronze Buckaroo might have been the OG talking donkey. Go figure. We'll have to look into that. But anyway, he wasn't actually talking. It was ventriloquist's act. But that actor, he was absolutely brilliant. And at first, my gut reaction was, oh, here we go. He's another step and fetch it kind of bumbling caricature.
Right.
But what I realized very quickly was how brilliant this man was at his comedy, at his art, that he wasn't. The difference, I think, between him and Stepin Fetchit, who for buffs who don't know who Stepin Fetchit was, he was a very popular actor in Hollywood. He was actually one of the wealthiest Black actors, of all his time. And he was playing a caricature of a slow, lazy, bug-eyed, I don't even want to go there, but it's really offensive. But this guy in the Bronze Buckaroo, while on the surface appeared similar in that sense, he was not at all the same. And he was not a caricature being portrayed for white audiences. Right? He was an archetype within the Black community that Black folks would recognize and laugh with, not at. He wasn't a foil for comedy. He was the comedy. Right? And the situations that he found himself in, that's an archetypical folk character. And he did it with precision. He did it with absolute conviction. He wasn't layering the comedy on, he was living it. And it was so, he was my favorite. He's absolutely my favorite.
I can see why, because like as I said, the whole cast was wonderful, but that specific character, it was mad. I love the whole exchange with the original owner of the donkey to the seller. That whole section of how it came about and the humor that was used and it wasn't in an offensive way, like, oh, this man is not. It was uniquely just tapered right, so it walked this line of humor opposed to insult. And it was sorry, it was also teaching you critical thinking in the matter.
Yes.
I want, and he was the character, the seller of the donkey, the original, was walking the audience through this lesson so compassionately and so less like, I want you to really pick up what I'm doing here. I'm a ventriloquist. I'm speaking. You've seen, like it made the audience want to go along with the ride. You know,
you knew at every step that he was a shyster.
Yes,
that he was trying to, one up, whether it was that or whether selling the talking donkey or whether it was the poker game.
Right.
With the rigged deck.
Yeah.
Right? And why these two men were playing strip poker.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't strip poker. It was that he had lost his money. And what else did he have but the shirt on his back? Right. And at the end of it, he's in a sheet. That's all he's got left. But, you look at, again, it's not a caricature.
Right.
It was really a full character realized. And you look at not just the faces, but what's behind the eyes. Yes. Why, like it was a situation comedy.
Yes.
But there was also this drama where the good guys are, getting the bad guys who are trying to steal the land from, and they killed the father who owned the ranch. Right. And they think that they might have killed the brother of the girl.
Right.
And they all go out looking for him.
Yep.
And then there's this huge battle, which is a classic Western gun battle.
Yeah, it's basically, I mean, in these days when we watch gun battles, we have people flipping. We have people flipping. We have car chases in the back. We have the
explosions, the blood and guts.
Yeah, they have their wet t-shirt on so you can see it all. And God said, the woman is probably in a cleavage top to arouse you in this gun battle, apparently. But this
brains splattered all over the.
But this in Bronze Buckaroo, the gun battle was just organically. This is how it's going down. We're gonna get behind some rocks and we're gonna keep shooting until we get all you. There was nothing else, and which made it just, for me, fascinating, because it was just, there was no other stuff. You were just constantly watching, like, oh, who the bullets are flying, and there was just a nice. And I know I sound like an old grandmother. I remember the days when gun battles were just simple. They were just so simple. People just got shot. There was no rolling around. There was no blood.
That is the brilliance of this film.
Right.
Is that they made it look simple. But you could tell anyone who's an actor or director like me or, involved in the arts, the choreography required to execute that scene, not only in the dance of it, but also in the editing of it, to get you on the edge of your seat, to wonder who's going to win, right? What happens if?
Right.
Are they going to take the girl away? Are they going to kill everybody? Who's going to win, the good or the bad guys, right? It's the brilliant complexity of it all with the illusion of simplicity that transcends race, that transcends culture, that is what art is to make something that is highly skilled and complex appear to be effortless. And they achieved that with the Bronze Buckaroo.
Yes, they certainly did. Even in the scene in the bar where I can't remember the character. He comes in and he talks a big talk, and the other two characters, the ones who are entwined with this donkey situation, you know, the main character leaves because he's a heavyweight, right? And they don't know that he's left, and they're just hanging on there, and then they notice and they quickly run away. You know, that comedy scenario plays over and over in comedy today, but they do it so well. You know,
Right.
you know, because their expressions, their eyes, their body language is acting, and you don't see a lot of people who act with their full intention, their
Full being, yeah.
everything. It's now say a line, and I'm not saying all actors. I'm sure there's, you know, but it's just a line to them. But these people took it completely back in that time, and not just them. It didn't belong to just black actors, but in any of the classic movies we watch, and from the time of 1930s, 1920s, 1900s, they just everything is completely encapsulated when they're acting. Everything, it's nothing gets wasted. They eat the bones. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and you think that this is not long after, this is only a decade after talking films hit with such popularity, right? These people came from the stage, most of them. Some of them came from silent films, where in order to bring a performance across, as we've seen, you have to play it with your whole being.
Yes, you have to play with your whole being.
Right. And the subtle gestures and movements behind the eyes, mattered. And that's why, frankly, that's why I love live theater, because that still exists in that art form, in the live theater. We don't see it as much in film anymore. I'd love to see it more.
I mean, I think film today, and I think I'm going to say it in every show we have, it's so cookie cutter. It's so insert villain, insert, love story, insert action, roll.
Same storyline.
Yeah,
same storyline over and over and over again.
The stories today, I can watch them and guess. And sometimes they have a twist that is mediocre, but it's a twist nonetheless. And you're like, okay, thank you.
They give it all away in the trailer.
Yeah, they give the trailers. Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Hollywood, do better with your trailers, please.
Thank you. You listening, Hollywood? Are you listening? Listen to QueenB.
You know what type of trailer? A segue. You know what kind of trailer really pisses me off? When they just take a scene from the movie and they just don't do any editing, and then that's the trailer. And you're like, no, the idea is to take little pieces from the movie to get a full spectrum of what you're walking into, to entice the people to come in, instead of just playing this one long clip and going, yep, it's the trailer. No, that's a piece of the movie. That's not a trailer. Well, trailers, it's encapsulate everything. So it's just one of my little pet peeves, and the lack of creativity. And that's why I think at least from my perception and my opinion, why we chose to focus on classic screenshots, to actually show you what's missing in today's movies,
including trailers, and I do try to link. I do a lot of research for these, and I look for not only the screenshots that we put, as we're talking, but I look for the trailer as well that I can link to at the beginning. That little round thing up in the corner with the exclamation point, that dot. That'll take you to the trailer if I can find one. Very often with some of the older films, or some of these all black films that didn't have the budget for a trailer, they're harder to find. And it's what the kind of trailer that I like best is the ones that have the big orchestra come up and the words across the screen, exciting, magical, musical, whatever, all the stars that there are in the heavens,
starring QueenB Divine,
glamour. Exactly. Right. And then they show just a little bit of the film that tells you something about the characters, but tells you nothing about the story. I don't want to go to the theater or watch a movie where I already know what the plot line is, and I already know what the story's about. Those are teasers. They're supposed to be teasers.
There you go.
I hope I can find one for the Bronze Buckaroo. I'm still looking, but Many
Oh,
of them
don't worry.
are lost.
We say, you know, like if you haven't seen it yet and you're just joining us to get a nice little conversation going on, listening to what we're saying, we do recommend you watch the Bronze Cowboy. We recommend you watch all the movies because as I said, there's so much in there.
Yeah.
It's like dipping into the past and watching this and getting into the mindset of what people were thinking back in those days and what was being shoveled to us in that day. What was the movement of the time? Like, you know, like I said,
Guys.
when it comes to women's fashion, I mean, the Bronze Buckaroo didn't have a lot of fashion, but it had a lot of tight pants.
It has some fashion, and she looked good. I mean, the actress, she was well dressed. She wasn't in. I mean, she wore trousers when she was riding the horse. That was rare in 1939 to see a woman.
Was rare,
right? So she was also a trailblazer in that way, or at least a costumer.
It totally was, and I think, you know, like I said, it was an exciting movie to watch because you got to peer into not only to the westerns that I love, but also I was intrigued with the all black cast because like I said, Posse was probably one of the first movies I went, and then there was another one which I'm not too sure of. It was an all black cast as well, but it was female. It was. I know the white version of an all female Western cast. It's an amazing movie. I think Drew Barrymore might have been in one. I can't remember, and I think she was one of the characters. And I can see all I can see is this cover girl woman. I can't remember her name. But anyways,
we'll find it. I'll put it here.
Yeah, it was. She was. There was a 4 women. It was a great story. But I also remember the full black act with female in the Western, and I can't remember it either. But the actors I think I don't think they were as known. I might be incorrect, but for some reason I'm thinking Angela Bassett, but maybe not. Oh, and the recent one, it's also a black. Has a Bob Marley name to it. Not No Woman No Cry. Idris Elba is in there, and Regina Hall is her name, or is it King?
She's so good. Regina King.
Yeah, but it's a really good one. So anyways, my point is I love Westerns from all kinds. I even have, I should show it, too bad I can't find them now. I have a box set of 100 spaghetti Westerns.
QueenB, tell our buffs who don't know what a spaghetti Western is.
Okay, I don't know the actual definition, but I can tell you that they're these short little vignettes, and they're very quick, and they're just kind of messy, and they're just like, someone who said, hey, here's a camera, let's go shoot a Western.
They're usually very poor quality, and the soundtrack and the lips don't always match up.
And the color is off. The color is off.
The color is bad. The production values are bad. I will tell you what a spaghetti Western is, actually.
Okay.
Italy had a fascination with Hollywood Westerns.
Right.
And they were trying to build their own sort of movie genre, their own movie studio. And they were enamored with these old Westerns. Right. And so they hopefully could get a name actor from Hollywood, or maybe a B actor, to come over to Italy, and they would shoot these Westerns a la Hollywood style, but with Italian actors. And so it's not that the soundtrack is off, it's that they're speaking Italian and they have English dubbed over them. And so they go, it's great. And so it's become the spaghetti Western is because they were made in Italy by an Italian production house.
Spaghetti, I get it. Spaghetti with sauce and the meat.
We'll have to find the best spaghetti Western.
Yes,
that we can find,
I have a box of them, and I laugh at them because I just sometimes I think, as I said, we got to got through about 30. We're like, wow, but they're just fun to watch.
They're super fun.
They really are. They're super fun to watch, and some of them I'm just like, what? But I love westerns that much. It's one of my favorite genres of. And as I said, Bronze Buckaroo delivered on all levels. It was fun. It was simple. It was classic. It was inspiring.
It was drama, it was comedy. It was musical. Yes. It was everything. It had everything.
It had everything. It was a really, so check it out. Open your mind and
open your heart.
Watch a movie. So
you know, I never liked westerns growing up, and I'll tell you why.
What?
Because I never liked the way Indigenous folks were portrayed. I never liked the way that it was the white cowboys were good and the natives were bad. I never liked, I sort of liked the Lone Ranger because at least there was an interaction between the white cowboy and his sidekick, Tonto. But unfortunately, tonto in Spanish means stupid, right? So I think that the writing and the actor himself who portrayed Tonto transcended all of that.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, I didn't like the obvious brainwashing about American history. And now that I'm an adult,
right,
I can look at it through a similar but different lens, especially since I'm finding that I have family members who are Indigenous, and you know, I'm finding cousins and you know, tremendous people, and I'm learning more now about that world than I ever expected to know. And that's why I appreciate with the Bronze Buckaroo that there were no Indigenous people depicted in this story.
Right.
Because it didn't follow the typical Western trope.
Right.
You know, ugh, how, you know, smoking peace pipe. You know, even in Peter Pan, Disney, what makes the red man red is one of the songs, you know. Cringe.
We have a lot to learn, but as I said, when we come to the Bronze Buckaroo, it delivered, and I'm just glad I get to be a part of a show that explores classic screenshots. I really do. Or classic screen movies. So I keep saying classicscreenshots.com. I'm just glad. So it's just, you know, I'm glad that I got to, I watched that because as I said, it opened a whole new world. I'm like, oh yeah, there is an all black back. Okay, I see what's going on. So I recommend, before we go,
I
recommend you watch it. I recommend that you share this with someone who is, you know, loved. I mean, there are a lot of people who are still in love with classic movies. Our grandparents, even though grandparents are not that old these days, but grandparents are grand uncles, anybody that you know that would have a great trip down memory lane and wants to learn something new. I am QueenB Divine. Anything you like to say, Henry darling?
I'm Henry C, and we have a good time here. So share the love. Speaking of Bob Marley, one love.
One
right?
love, one heart. Give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel all right.
All right. Subscribe, ring that bell, like, review, comment, watch the movie, and get into a dialogue with us. Once a month, we're going to be having a special guest co-host from now forward. And you know what, QueenB?
What?
I had an idea as we were talking about the trailers and stuff.
What
if I can't find a trailer, QueenB,
right?
I'll fucking make one.
Oh, look at you. That is delicious. Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend, my sister, QueenB. QueenB.
Henry Z.
And we love you, our buffs. Thank you for growing our channel with us. And we'll see you next time with a wonderful, wonderful film talking about mental health. It's called The Snake Pit. The Snake Pit. But I'm not going to tell you about it. You got to go down to the undercarriage, click the link to the film, watch the film, and then come and process with us.
I see it down there. I see it. All right. Now you go do it. All right. One love.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, they call me the chocolate cowboy.